they told me that the results were so severe, so bad, they said, you should be dying. My name is Lynne. I won't say my age, but it's definitely the wrong side of 70. I was diagnosed with terminal cancer in 2010. Quite by chance, I had a small lump on my thigh, and I was walking down the stairs from my London flat, and my leg kind of collapsed. So I went to my doctor and got into Blackheath Hospital, and they took some blood tests. They came back and said, Mrs. Nesbitt, we need to call you in. We think we've muddled your test results up with somebody else. I had the tests done again, and the results were exactly the same. I was put on to a haematologist. He said, well, I think I know what it is. He said, but we'll need to do a biopsy. But he came back and he said, well, he said, I've never seen this. He said, but you have multiple myeloma, bone marrow cancer, and lymphoma equally badly. He said, I've not seen this before. He said, if I were to treat you, I wouldn't know which to treat, and I have to discuss it with my professor. The consultant himself was he was about 10 years off retirement, so he was obviously very well experienced and very professional, but he wanted to talk to his professor, who was at King's College, because he also went to King's College Hospital as well, where he consulted. And so then the conversation went on to, because he said, he mentioned treatment. I said, so are you going to offer me any treatment? And he said, no, because there are no symptoms, and with this disease, you don't get rid of it. You know, it's there until it's the end, and the treatment would alleviate symptoms. And as there are no symptoms to alleviate, we don't want to give you any treatment. And I thought, my God, this is wonderful, because I certainly didn't want to have any conventional treatment. And he said the treatment would be chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and bone marrow transplant. And the thought of having somebody else's bone marrow in me also put me off. So I went away, actually, in a sense, thinking that I'd just been given a gift. I don't know why, I'd just been given a gift. And I remembered something that my meditation master had once said. She had said that people with cancer are very fortunate. She said, because they have an opportunity to get closer to God. I was on crutches. Somebody recommended going to the hyperbaric oxygen chamber in Douglas. She said it did wonders for my ankle. And I went every day for 9 days, by which time I biblically threw away my crutches. I was back to normal after 9 months, 9 days, and they told me that it was also good for cancer. And they put me in touch with a therapy centre in Kent. That's how I was introduced to hyperbaric oxygen, and that was in 2012. But last year, when I moved to where I am now, one of my priorities was that I would be no more than an hour away from an oxygen therapy centre. It just so happened I'm only 15 minutes away from an oxygen therapy centre. What serendipity was that? I was very happy there, but they kept on having to close down for various reasons, and they weren't necessarily prepared. Periods where for maybe a couple of months I wasn't having any oxygen, and I was amazed how my blood test results became worse. And this happened 3 times. So I knew there was this definite correlation between not having oxygen and the blood and it having an effect on the multiple myeloma. On this last occasion, I said to a friend, I really would need one at home, but they're too expensive. I discussed it with my son, and he started to look, and he found Oxydise in his own backyard, virtually, in Cambridge. I had looked at other companies, and they were extremely expensive. They didn't necessarily have exactly what I wanted, because I wanted a seated, upright one so that I could sit and do what I used to do in the chamber in the centre, you know, with my computer or reading or whatever. And when I rang you, it became even more interesting. You were very informative, I think, but most of all, you were totally committed to this therapy. You were committed to it, and that you actually, it was almost like a life purpose is that you want to make it available to as many people as possible, and you were not being extortionate in your pricing. I have tried at least an hour, if not more, most days. If I can do 2 hours, I'm really happy, but it's usually an hour and a half. And I have clocked up over 300 hours. I know it's making a difference. I would say one of the main things, a therapy called Spooky 2, a frequency therapy. And I got completely lost, and I changed my computer, and for years and years and years I wasn't doing it. But a few months ago I started again. And so I now have, instead of 1 generator, I have 4 generators. 3 of them are doing multiple myeloma, and 1 of them is doing a detox. So I know that is also is powerful. As well as that, I am doing a lot of singing and chanting, and which I know is therapeutic. But also I'm into supplementation in a big way. It's costing me an arm and a leg. That's probably my major expense in life, apart from, house overheads, living overheads. It's my other big overhead. And I just received a consignment which I had ordered, and I like to, the man who sends it, who's in Liverpool, he's brilliant. He also sends sheets of information about each supplement. And it is amazing. It's so obvious to me that people are ill because they are totally undernourished. We are, the world is undernourished. Rich people are undernourished. They don't know what they're missing. We don't know what we're missing. And generally the medical profession doesn't know either, because they're not taught. I asked my first consultant how much training he'd had in nutrition, and as I say, he was quite, over middle age. He said, about 6 hours. And so they don't know anything. And certainly a cancer patient going into hospital will be given the opposite kind of food that they should have. One of the main things is carbohydrate, glucose feeds cancer. Oh, really? Most people say, I didn't know that. I didn't know it either. I found out. This is why this is such a gift. It's been such a gift.
What does your diet look like now? What kind of things do you eat?
It's a bit limited, but and I do have carbohydrate, because now the thinking is you need more carbohydrate, than you can't go without carbohydrate. So I breathe a sigh of relief. I've been vegetarian since 1969, but now, for probably about 20 years actually, I've been eating fish. I haven't had meat since that date though. So it's mainly vegetable based, but I do also have dairy. Now, I know there are things that aren't necessarily helpful. Dairy, eggs, something in an egg yolk is not good for cancer. But I take the view that as I'm feeling very well and I'm stable, I'm not going to cut out things that I really enjoy, because apart from the equipment and the nutrition, the main other aspect of healing is a positive attitude and a higher vibration, laughter. I read one story of a man who healed himself in hospital because he watched one Morecambe and Wise video after another. And he was constantly laughing, and other people were coming into his room laughing away. And also there are other things at work which I don't understand. I don't understand anything really, to tell you the truth. I don't, I really don't know anything. But you just get an inkling that there are other forces at work. But you attract those forces. It's your beliefs. It's your actual beliefs about yourself which reduce your immune system if they are negative beliefs. You're inviting ill health. So a positive attitude, and starting with yourself, is so important. What people don't realize is that they live in a world which they've created, but they always blame other people for creating their world. But it's not like that. It doesn't work like that. It's actually, you think it's circumstances. Yes, circumstances come into your life, but it's your response to those circumstances which creates a world which is either positive or negative. And my world is just fantastic.
You showed that mindset from the start. When you got diagnosed, there was almost a positive, immediately out the gate you were very positive.
Yeah, it's a gift.
Yeah.
It's a gift.
Yeah.
Absolutely, you're so right. Absolutely. And that hasn't changed. I sometimes, it's interesting because when the doctors have, I have my blood tests, I'm being watched, being monitored, and the blood test's local, and then they send it off to the hospital, and the hospital phones me. And if it's a consultant on the end of the line, I think, oh my God, what's going on? And then they will, the first thing they say, there's nothing to worry about, Mrs. Nesbitt. But absolutely, if they say there's nothing to worry about, I know there's something to worry about. And immediately I start to worry, So, but then I say, they say, I think we need to start looking at treatment now. I say, no, just give me time to see if I can turn it round. And I always have.
And talk us through what a day of your sort of self-care looks like. What kind of things would you do starting in the morning?
In the morning?
To look after yourself.
To look after myself, I will come down. First thing I do now, which is recent actually, is I have a cup of hot water with Himalayan salt. Because I've been introduced to this book which says water and salt are vital and they can heal you. And so I do that. Then I have a series of on vitamin C. So the man in Wales taught me how to make liposomal vitamin C. And he got me a machine. The machine is something that actually cleans jewellery. So I presume you put your jewellery in dry into this machine and it ionises. I don't know what it does. But when you make liposomal vitamin C, you put something liquid in. And so I make my own liposomal vitamin C. I start with that. Vitamin C is vital. And I've got it in my shed, my garden shed, which is electrified. And that I know is really helpful. Saunas are always very good, and it's infrared as well. And it wasn't that expensive online when I bought it, but they've gone up a bit in price. But the other thing that somebody introduced me to was like a so-called Medibed. And it's a mattress which is filled with crystals, healing crystals, and it also emits infrared. I can't remember which one, type of infrared, and pulsed electromagnetic field, PEMF. And so I lie on that, and that heats up to 70 degrees. The sauna heats Fahrenheit. The sauna heats up to 47 degrees Celsius. It's quite hot. But both are rejuvenating, and so other people who've also laid on that bed upstairs feel very rested, and it's a very good thing. So I do those two things as well.
Brilliant. And just to go through some of the experience of using the equipment with the hyperbarics, if there's not much to say on this, don't worry, we can always move forward in terms of the editing of it, but can you walk us through what a session in a hyperbaric chamber feels like for you?
Yes, a session in a hyperbaric chamber is not frightening. Certainly in a therapy centre, you're with other people. When you're on your own, in a if you've got your own at home, which I have now, thanks to you, my very first experience of it was a little bit frightening because I was on my own inside the chamber. Once you know how it works, you can just relax, and it's a very pleasant experience inside the chamber, because all you're doing is breathing, and you can do whatever you like while you're breathing. Of course, as you have a mask on, you can't sing an operatic aria, but you can do most other things and I would recommend a seated one, so that you can make good use of the time, so you don't feel impatient, you don't want to cut it short. I want to give it as much time as I can. It's just that you're just sitting in a very normal environment, but you know that from the start, even though the pressure hasn't reached the depth that you want to reach, all that time you have been breathing fresh, 100% pure air. And of course, so whatever time you spend in it is beneficial. And when I come out of it, sometimes I feel quite sleepy. And then suddenly you switch on and you suddenly feel that you've got so much energy. And it's marvellous. And I know it works because my blood test results tell me. That's the proof of the pudding. And I remember once when I was using the therapy centre in Swanley, it was on a Tuesday, and on a Tuesday evening I had to travel from Lewisham, where I used to live, to Marylebone, going through London Bridge. London Bridge has got 3 escalators. Coming home after doing some quite strenuous things, actually, picking up heavy boxes and all this kind of thing, which I had to do, I was still able to walk up 3 escalators, passing all these youngsters at my age. I just walked up these escalators. If I didn't do the oxygen, I couldn't do it. And that was when I first realised, wow, this really does work.
And what would you say to someone newly diagnosed with terminal cancer?
Take heart. It's not necessarily the end of the world. There are approaches which maybe the medical profession don't know about. There are some amazing cancer gurus out there who know far more than anybody in the medical profession, because they've also had, a lot of them have had a medical background and moved on. So whatever you do, don't despair. A positive attitude slows things down so you've got more time. I would like people to take away reassurance and a sense of responsibility, that they are responsible, not to divest that responsibility to somebody else. You're the one that is committed to your body, and you need to take responsibility. And it takes time, it takes effort, but it's about saving your life.